Good morning, everyone. We're just going to let everyone filter in. We see a lot of folks joining right now. Appreciate you joining at the end of the day in the UAE. For everyone to filter through, as a point of administration, this webinar is being recorded. And if you would have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A. We'll leave some time at the end of the webinar to answer any of your questions.
So welcome and a very good evening to our esteemed audience who took time from their busy schedules to attend this webinar on PEP screening requirements in UAE. I'm Dipali Vora from AML UAE, a firm which is focused on assisting clients with anti-money laundering compliances in UAE as well as GCC nations. We have been offering a wide range of services on AML compliance in UAE, such as assistance in GoAML registration, documenting the AML policy, conducting BRA, helping clients to file certain reports on the GoAML portal, and selecting AML screening software. So before we begin, let's understand what PEP is. A PEP is a politically exposed person who has been entrusted with a prominent public function and has power over or can influence government spending. The definition of PEP not only includes that one individual, but also is quite wide enough to cover the immediate family members, that is the spouse, kids, parents, and also the close business associates of the PEP, by treating this person as associated PEPs. It is very important for us to manage the risk which is associated with such PEPs. And one of the way is to screen the customers before we onboard them. So now coming to the screening software, Castellium AI is one of the world's leading sanction screening software powered by patented technology and enriched with global as well as country-specific sanctions, about 1,000 plus watch list and global data on PEP as well as shelf companies, which gets updated every 5 minutes. I would now invite Spencer from Castellium AI to introduce himself and brief us on how Castellium AI can help us mitigate the risk associated with PEPs through the use of screening software. Over to you, Spencer.
Polly, thank you very much for the introduction. I will note that we're hoping to have my colleague Peter Piatetsky, the CEO and co-founder of Castellium AI, join. I'll be here running this myself. I am a director of solutions and partnerships at Castellium AI and have previously worked as an operator. So, I've been in many of your positions, overseeing compliance for corporate entities and advising clients as a consultant previously on compliance with sanctions and PEPs in emerging markets. And we're here, and Castellium is here as a software provider to solve for many of the issues in sanctions, PEP screening, and watch list screening. So when we're talking, this follows on from our previous webinar in last month at the beginning of November, covering sanctions screening in the UAE. So we hope that many of you were able to join that last webinar and find this as educational and follow on to our previous session. So Dipali gave a very good definition of what PEPs are, and we can expand on that a little bit more. And we'll also talk about the risks from PEPs and how the UAE approaches PEP screening. So what are the regulations within the UAE pertaining to PEP screening? How does PEP screening relate to other watch lists like your sanctions watch list that you should be screening, when you should be screening for PEPs? And then I will be providing a demonstration on how to screen for PEPs using our platform. And I will note that our platform does have a free version, so anybody who goes to castellium.ai can create an account and screen for PEPs, screen for sanctions, and screen other watch lists. All of that is freely available. Of course, what I will show you are the premium features that are paid for clients needing to do compliance. So taking a step back, let's expand on what it is, what it means to be a PEP. So the PEP definition, we typically follow the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force definition, and the UAE implements this locally. So this includes anyone, and PEP definition includes anyone in a position of power who can influence government decision-making and the direction of public funds. And PEPs are typically broken down into 4 different categories. So there are foreign PEPs, domestic PEPs, international organization PEPs, and relatives and close associates. So foreign PEPs are, any politician trusted by a foreign government, national level leaders, high-level civil servants, military officers, diplomatic personnel, judicial officials, and political party members. Meanwhile, domestic PEPs hold the same, levels of power and are in the same categories, but are, within your country. So it would be, in the case of screening, that's, what is a foreign PEP? It would be, somebody from, the US or a European Union official, whereas a domestic PEP may be simply, the local minister or assistant minister in a national government locally. International organization PEPs are those with political power within international organizations like the EU or locally, the GCC. And functionally, it's easy to group these within the groupings of foreign PEPs. And lastly, there are relatives and close associates. So now these are the family members and the individuals who are professionally or personally close to a root PEP. A root PEP being the person who ultimately has a position of power and trust from a government. And an example would be, of course, a spouse of a prominent politician or government official, or a frequent business associate of a prominent entrepreneur who also has a government position. Now, the risks from PEPs are unique. Unlike sanctions, where there is a list of individuals or entities, vessels, etc., that from which you are barred from doing business, PEPs are a risk metric and important for taking a risk-based approach to your customer relations. Because of their position, they present a unique risk of involvement in corruption, bribery, or money laundering. And so financial institutions and regulated DNFBPs, so designated non-financial institutions, are at risk as persons and entities can use these institutions or businesses to engage in illicit financial transactions, and they're more likely to use these financial institutions and regulated businesses to engage in money laundering. And because of this, authorities require financial institutions and DNFBPs to have AML procedures in place to screen their customer base, including to identify whether they are a PEP. And the failure to comply with these AML requirements does present, a legal risk of fines and, in many jurisdictions, also criminal jeopardy. One example I've found that's quite interesting is in August of 2022, for the very first time, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, the FSRA in Abu Dhabi, which oversees Abu Dhabi Global Markets, ADGM, issued a fine against a payment processor, Wise, for failing to implement adequate AML screening, and that fine included covered failures related to screening high-risk customers, including those identified as PEPs. So increasingly, we're seeing regulator interest in PEP screening as part of a holistic, full approach to AML processes and procedures in the UAE. This is, of course, on top of national level fines, such as those issued by the UAE Central Bank, which fined 11 banks in 2019 for over $12 million for failing to have adequate watch list screenings of customers in place as part of a risk-based AML policy. So what are the requirements within the UAE? PEP screening requirements are covered under Cabinet Decision number 10 of 2019, which covers AML and counterfinancing of terrorism. And that outlines how you are supposed to screen PEPs locally. And it builds upon a regulation from 2018, Decree Law number 20 of 2018, and additionally specifies exactly who is required to screen PEPs. So financial institutions are obviously included. That obviously includes banks or other money service providers. It also includes DNFBPs, which are locally defined as real estate agents, brokers in precious metals and stones, and high-value jewelers, lawyers, notaries, independent accountants who provide accounting services, and corporate service providers. And these businesses are required to conduct customer due diligence, which involves first identifying whether a customer is a PEP, either foreign or domestic PEP, or a relative or close associate of a PEP, and then from there, taking adequate measures and having procedures in place to ensure that a customer who is identified as a PEP is properly assessed for their risk, and measures are taken to mitigate risk, which includes, for example, gathering information on proof of funds and the source of funds that you may be taking from a PEP, or facilitating a transaction on behalf of a PEP. So PEP screening and its relation to, thanks for letting me know. I'm too quiet. So PEP screening, how does it relate to other watch lists? It should be included as an integral part of compliance watch list screening. And we recommend that anyone who is looking for a watch list screening service should expect that PEP screening is included along with other watch lists, such as sanctions or export controls or law enforcement watch lists. Right, all of this should be included and should not necessarily be an additional expense. It should be included as an integral part of the screening solution. Look here that I've been joined by Peter Piatetsky. Apologies for the delay, everyone. Peter, I don't know if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself or want to join in later.
My apologies. I don't know if Spencer shared we had a fire in our office, but that's how important the webinar is that despite that we are still here. Peter Piatetsky, co-founder, CEO of Castellum.ai. Very happy to be working with AML UAE. One of our advisors is head of enforcement to the Central Bank of the UAE. I've worked with the Financial Action Task Force on assessments in the Middle East region, including on Bahrain, and have worked on finding banks, closing down banks, and DNFPPs and putting people in jail. And now our specialty, together with Dipali and Spencer, is to make sure that banks and DNFPPs and others do not go to jail and do not get fined. So again, apologies for the fire, and I'm happy to kind of slot into this conversation.
Excellent. Thanks for joining, Peter. And I'll pass along, I'm sure, as many of the questions from the audience your way, so we already have some filtering through. Continuing on, we're discussing the PEP screening and how it relates to other watch lists. As I've noted, you should expect this from any service provider to include PEPs along with sanctions as part of an integrated solution. Now, when do you need to screen for PEPs? The regulations from the UAE Cabinet Decision number 10 of 2019 clearly outlines instances of when a PEP screening needs to be taken, when you need to screen for PEPs and check your customer base for PEPs. And most importantly, there's 3 points. At the start of a business relationship, during the customer onboarding process. So before you provide services and before you facilitate transactions on behalf of a customer, you should screen them against a PEPs list and identify whether they are a PEP and take necessary measures to reduce your risk, which may include, for example, requesting additional documentation from that PEP to identify the source of funds. And secondly, at any point when you are facilitating transaction, that customer should be rescreened. Now, sanctions screening must be conducted daily and is required by the UAE. It's recommended to also additionally include PEP screening as part of this daily cycle as well. So those are the 3 main instances of when you will be screening customers against a PEP list.
Spencer, have you and Dipali talked about domestic and foreign PEPs?
Yeah, we've discussed the domestic, foreign, international, and relatives and close associates. Is there anything on that as far as we should know as far as how you should approach customers and the differentiation between those categories?
Yeah, I mean, Central Bank UAE has issued really, really good guidance on this, and the thing that's very important is they know, there is no exhaustive PEP list, and that the decision should be risk-based. And businesses should always be seeking to add higher net worth clients and clients that can generate revenue. So, nobody should take this as you should not do business with politically exposed persons. That's not what the guidance says. What the guidance says is you need to have a form of identifying and mitigating the risk. And so the most important part is it starts with the screening. And the screening, every jurisdiction is different, but you do need to be screening, as Spencer said, on a regular basis. And part of the reason for that is positions, of course, change, right? So somebody could be a lower ranking PEP, and then they become a higher ranking PEP. Or somebody their family affiliation could change. Like someone can marry into a family and become a relative and close associate of a PEP. So the only thing that is kind of constant about politically exposed person risk is that it is constantly changing, like most watch lists. And but even more complicated than sanctions, with sanctions, it's very binary. Somebody either is or is not on a list. But with PEP risk, it's something where you can do the business. You should do the business. You just need to have senior manager approval. You need to show, hey, we did the PEP screening, but now these are the specific actions we've taken.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Peter. At this point, I want to remind everyone that the Q&A is open, so please go ahead and submit any of your questions. We'll be transitioning over to a demo to show you exactly how to screen PEPs at this point. So if you have any questions as to what the regulations mean, how when you should be screening PEPs, definitions of PEPs and how to approach and implement a risk-based approach to PEP screening, please go ahead and enter those now. And
we already answered the questions from Benoit and others.
No. So.
Okay, I was saying I'd love to tackle. So Benoit, the answer is yes. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is, right, you want to show that you conducted risk-based screening. So, if you know that a UA minister came, you know that that person is a PEP. So the question is, how do you know if that person is a PEP? So did you put their name, like kind of breaking it down? Someone comes into your precious metals business and they want to conduct a transaction. The transaction is over a certain value. And you check the name of the person, and you either get a match that they are a PEP or relative or close associate, or you do not get a match that they are a PEP or close associate. So if you don't, you're in the clear, and if you're using Castellum.ai, you will also see that they're not, let's say, on a watch list, like terrorist list, UAE most wanted, something like that. But if they are a PEP, then you can have, and this is something where AML UAE is very good at. You need the policies and procedures. So you have, on one hand, your screening technology, and then you have your policies and procedures. So you have a UAE minister come in, he wants to purchase precious metals. You say, okay, this is a minister. We're going to note that down. There's no reason we can't do a transaction. But you have to show that you are doing the screening. So an example which, where maybe you could not do the transaction is if the person, you had identified some bribery risk. Because really that's why we do PEP screening, is there is a risk of bribery and corruption. So if the person coming to buy from you is also in charge of, let's say, the land, the specific lease that you're on, and you're trying to give them a very nice price to extend, let's say, your lease, maybe that's a transaction you should not engage in. Sorry, Dipali, go ahead. Dipali, I saw you went off mute. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Here one of the person has asked if our client is from a high risk country, however, he is in the UAE for quite long time, should we deem his transaction suspicious? So the person who are coming from high risk countries, we are required to apply enhanced due diligence measures. Okay, so there is no reason to file a suspicious transaction report for them. Then so as Spencer mentioned that we are required to have a risk-based approach. So when you think about the time limit of a person being a PEP, we are required to have a background check. Okay, what position he was in, what kind of prominent decision-making power he had. On the basis of that, we allot a risk to that person. And on the basis of that, we decide what kind of due diligence measures we wish to apply. That's all. Then one customer became has not any customer question.
And I see a question here from Dilip. So doing transaction of a company registered in the UAE, all UBO and partners are residency holders. In that case, is it required screening? Dilip, you have required screening, period. If you are a DNFPP, basically you do business in the UAE, you need to do screening no matter what. The PEP screening is just a type of screening, but the regulations by Central Bank of UAE and DFSA and others, you need to do screening, period. You don't get kind of an exception for these people are UAE or these people are Oman. It's all the same.
So here
question.
Yeah. So here we have one more question from that if a UAE minister comes to purchase precious metals, okay, you can have a transaction with a PEP, provided that there is no such law which is saying that you can't have transaction. It is just that they are to be treated as high risk customers. That's the only difference. So you can have a transaction with a PEP, be it a UAE minister or any other domestic international PEP, provided we apply appropriate EDD measures. I hope I'm answering the question.
Thank you, Dipali. And I want to quickly, I know we're short on time, quickly answer a few more questions and then go to the demo. Kunal has a question, time frame for PEPs. Again, this is risk-based, but generally, once a PEP, always a PEP. The risk comes from, does someone have extra influence over government procurement and contracting? But oftentimes someone may no longer be in an official government position, but still retain significant influence. So I personally subscribe to the once a PEP, always a PEP guidance. Again, doesn't mean you can't do the business, just that you have to do the screening. I see a question from Pradeep. We're a small company. We've not done screening in the past. What do we do? Don't worry, just start screening. Again, the regulations in the UAE are pretty new. So, a decade ago, there was no screening requirement in the UAE. And the UAE, although it has issued fines, it has also been very proactive in saying, please start doing the screening now. So not having done the screening doesn't mean, my main point is, if you have not done the screening before, please don't say, well, we're worried about what we're going to find. We're not going to do it. That's how you end up with a big fine.
Yeah.
If you have not done screening before, just start now.
I will note, I mean, this is even covered in the regulations themselves. So the Cabinet Decision number 10, which outlines screening requirements in the UAE, actually specifies, for example, if you're reporting a suspicious transaction, that the person or officer of a company who is reporting that transaction and the company executives are not legally liable for reporting a suspicious transaction. If there is something to report to the government, if you do suspect there is money laundering or something going on, they want you to report that without fear of it implicating you. So they are, very, very directly seeking your help in, making sure that, money laundering is inaccessible.
And I think let's show folks like how the actual screening works. I think there's also from Pradeep question about AML support and policy manual. Polly, would you be able to put your email in the chat?
Yes, I will do that.
Excellent. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and transition over, and very briefly, I know we're slightly going over time. I want to thank everyone for staying with us so long, but we'll quickly show you how do you actually screen for PEPs using the Castellum AI software, and give everyone a chance, an opportunity to see how you can create your own account to start doing this yourself. So first off, I want to highlight that anyone can create an account for free by simply clicking this button and registering. If we log in, you'll land at what is a very simple kind of Google for compliance. You can select your risk categories, including PEPs. If we want to search for just one category or all of them at the same time, you can do that. So, in a moment. And so first off, we'll start with something fairly similar. We can enter even in just, the last name. Of course, you get, with a name like this, you'll get many results. You can filter down if you like to screen just PEPs. There are fewer results here, and even more so, focus just on the United Arab Emirates for now. And here we have a local PEP called Al Mubarak. You can search that full name as well, if you like, receive that same result, and see their businessman, that they're a businessman and politician. You can also search in Arabic So that same name in Arabic works here as well. You'll see what you've searched and where it's matching highlighted in red, so you can easily process your results and run through these. And we also have relationship trees where those are available for PEPs, so you can see their relatives and close associates. We search for Saif Ahmad Al-Gurir. You can see Abdullah Al-Gurir is a sibling. If you click through that, you can see their profile as well, that they're a businessman and listed as a businessman and politician.
Can you also show the workflow and the record keeping, and for both when there is a match and when there is not a match?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we wanted to, if we had searched Abdullah Al-Gurir and wanted to process this result, simply start the onboarding workflow to process this result. We see here there's two profiles here for this individual. You can select that it's a true positive or false positive if it's incorrect. To see that it's an individual with a name match. You can enter any additional analysis as you'd like. And with just a couple of clicks, we've created a permanent audit record so that you can save your results and how your results were processed. And you have that audit record here, and you can export that as a PDF so that you can save it to your records and produce it for regulators on request. So you see who searched at what time with these thresholds, what your results were. That you searched Abdullah Al-Gurir, that this is a true positive, it was processed and classified. You can see exactly where there were results in the appendix. So across all of the different sources that we cover, and Castellum AI covers over 1,000 different, contains over 1,000 different lists. You can see exactly where those matches were. And when you save your search results, you have an audit log, that electronic audit log that you can similarly reference to see your prior searches and how they were classified.
Can you show a no match?
Yeah,
hopefully,
absolutely.
generally you have a no match. And I can really want to emphasize, like, the regulations in the UAE are new. I also see there's a couple of questions about who's the main regulator. The FIU is not the regulator, depending on kind of who you are. If you're a precious metals dealer, or if you're a bank or an insurer, your regulators would be CB UAE or DFSA. Most likely those two, potentially others, but those are the top two regulators.
Yeah. So here's a name we've searched. We've set the minimum score to 100, so it has to be an exact match in order to return a result. We see there are no 100% matches. You can still save an audit record to show that you searched this and that there were no results. And you can generate a PDF report similarly showing, again, who searched at what time with what parameters, and here are your results, right? That there were no results for that screen, and again, your appendix showing the detailed information on that screen. So again, I want to highlight that anybody can try this out for free. You can search as much as you'd like. Again, with the free version, there are some differences in your access and what you're able to screen, but you can screen names and the full database of over 1,000 lists freely as many times as you want to test the platform and start your compliance journey.
And sorry, Spencer, can you also show the batch?
Oh, sure. And let's say if you would like to screen, your full customer database, you can go to batch screening and upload a CSV file. Similarly, filter what list sources and lists you would like to screen against, set your score, and run a search. Similarly, you'll be able to process your results through the workflow, the same as if you ran an individual search. As these are processed, they are the audit logs are saved for that, and you can similarly export a PDF report of that full batch search. So if you're looking to regularly screen your full customer database, you can do that here in the batch search.
Thank you, Spencer. And I see there are a couple more questions related to the search. So what does the score mean? The score is how close the name is. So basically you set your risk tolerance. So if you are looking for, if you are very confident that the name that you're searching is very close to the name that you want, you can be searching at like 90. If you want a little more wiggle room, you might want to search at 85, 80. Basically, how close is Peter Piatetsky to Peter Pizzetsky? So it's our type of fuzzy matching. So that's what the score means.
Yeah. Here's an example of that here. We have this first name, misspelled, but fairly close. And you get a result, a score of 91, showing that it's a very close match with the full name of Saif Ahmad Al-Kubir.
And we recommend using a score of 85. Starting with 85, you can modify it further, but 85 will generally give you everything that you need. Looking more at questions, if a client who we are dealing with is not a PEP, the later is covered, the client's father is a PEP, should we still consider a client as a high-risk individual? The answer is yes, because it would be relative and close associate. And Spencer, could you show us some more relationship trees for the UAE? But basically, really want to emphasize, the first step is you need to do the screening. Like the first step is when you have new customers that you're bringing on board, whether you're a bank or precious metals or insurance, you need to check the names. Then on a regular basis, you need to recheck them. And the biggest question is like, how do I do that? Spencer showed that to us. So you were able to put in names, IDs, one at a time. Here in this example, you can see the listing from Castellum doesn't just have the PEP themselves, but also has relatives and associates.
So you can select here, right? You search for Ahmed bin Said Al Maktoum, and you can see that their spouses here in this database connect to that profile, and then also see their relations with others as well. So it goes up and down a relationship tree like a network map. Are there any other questions related to the platform and how to conduct a screening? Chandala, I see you're asking, how is Castellum AI made specifically for the UAE? Where can you get access to the free version? Castellum AI is a global solution. We have customers in the UAE, including DNFBPs in the local market, and we work very closely with AML UAE to meet the local needs. But we also have customers in North America, Europe, East Asia, and elsewhere. As far as accessing the free version, if you simply go to our website, castellum.ai, and select search sanctions for free, you can create a free account to start searching.
And then Spencer, would you be kind enough to show everyone the pricing as well?
Yep.
And then just to let everyone know, you don't have to treat this like the bazaar. Like the pricing is free, it's free to start, and then we're very upfront about the pricing. So basically, one seat per year, this is the pricing that gives you everything you need to make sure that you are complying. It gives you access to global PEP lists, domestic PEPs, foreign PEPs, international organization PEPs, sanctions lists, and more. So there's a question for, can we save our customer database and get an alert? Could you go back to the batch screen for a moment? So the answer is yes, that is a paid feature, but we are currently adding scheduled screening. So basically, you don't have to manually upload everything. you can have your customers that you are rescreening on a regular basis, and you get alerted when there's a match. There's also a question, can we screen BIC and SWIFT codes? Yes. BIC and SWIFT codes are ID numbers. So one of the things that's really excellent about the Castellum AI data is we put data into different categories. So a name is a name, an ID number is an ID number, a location is a location. That might sound like, well, it should be like that, but some of our competitors, they just have information as text. So it leads to a lot more false positives, difficult to get results. And if you have a BIC or SWIFT number that you can put in, you can search that in the ID space. And
looking for an example for that, for a BIC number. I'll start off here. I mean, we'll note that you can search for, for example, a crypto address as an ID and see that listed as an ID number. We looked for, an individual that we know has an ID. You can search for that tax ID number that is ascribed with that individual in the ID field as well and get that same result from US OFAC.
And Spencer, I just sent you a BIC code you could try in the chat.
Okay. There we go. So here is a BIC code for Sberbank in Russia. So we, as Peter said, we categorize IDs as IDs, so those can be screened separate from the name, and it's not, a consolidated screening. You're actually searching against a one-to-one and comparing apples to apples, as we say. Are there any other questions on the screening platform? So.
There's also who is the agent or distributor in the UAE. So AML UAE is the agent or distributor. So we work closely with AML UAE. We have a legal relationship with AML UAE. I also want to remind everyone that one of our advisors is the head of enforcement for the Central Bank of UAE. So we are very much kind of legally and locally connected in the UAE. Another question. Can I outsource client screening, and are there any who can do it? So again, AML UAE can. So please kind of begin, and I'll want to make sure if you want to reach out to castellum.ai, you can just email support@castellum.ai. And then likewise, you can reach out to AML UAE support@aml.uae, amlua.com. So support and then company name, that will give you both of us. I know we're over time. I just see we still have well over 100 people here, and we still have more questions. So I'm happy to say, what is the most important support for the implementation of requirements in developing countries? So the first thing is to start screening. To build out a process. So when you have a new customer, screening that customer, saving those results, and doing that on a regular basis. And that is the most important step, and that was the most important step in keeping you from getting fined. When you look at UAE, fines and regulations, most of the organizations that have been fined were not doing screening. So in the US or the UK, a lot of the organizations that have been fined were screening poorly. But where the UAE government is right now is they're saying, start screening or else we're going to fine you. Eventually, they'll be fining organizations for not doing the right type of screening, not doing enough screening. But at this point, the government is being very kind and is essentially giving everyone more time to work on this. We have over 40 questions. Which is excellent.
Well, before we answer any other questions, and I know that we're running over, so for those who are, have joined us for so long, at the end of the day, we really appreciate it. But I want to highlight, as we continue with the question and answer period, that there is a code you can use for a discount, and we work, as I said, Peter said, very closely with AML UAE. So there is a discount code AML UAE 20 that you can use for an annual subscription, and get in contact with AML UAE for additional information as well.
And I saw there's a question. Can you check the name Sam Bankman? That is an add-on. So we have adverse media as well. So I think that is from Anish. Basically, you are asking probably what should be our next webinar, which is adverse media. Adverse media, we do have adverse media. That is a extra paid feature. So you won't see adverse media in your test results unless you're an enterprise client. That's not included in the free version. What record to be kept to justify screening? So what the Spencer showed earlier, your audit records, the electronic ones, and here I'll share screen as well. Sorry, Spencer, can you let me share screen, please?
Okay, you should have access.
Okay, perfect. So I am not yet on a list. Here again, you can save the audit record. So where do you save the audit records? You have a search here. It will show date, time, the screening. But if you also want to do a screen, and here I'll just quickly go through this one. True positive, individual, name match. Good evening to everyone. The building still smells like smoke. But this is the other version. So 2 ways to save your records, right? You have the PDF, which you can export and you can send to people. This is really important because people often want to, let's say your regulator wants to know, hey, are you doing compliance? And you say yes, and they will say, show me. Well, now you can show them. So it's very, very important. Compliance is always a show me type of thing. And so two different ways to show and store your records. A question from Jagan: once a PEP, always a PEP. Please explain. I would just say once a PEP, always a PEP. It's really a question of what makes someone a politically exposed person. It's when they have influence or authority over significant government purchasing decisions or international organization purchasing decisions. So it is a risk-based thing, but most politically exposed persons of a certain stature retain the ability to influence government decisions even after they are no longer in office. And then it gets, and let's say, speaking about the US for a moment, in the US, it's a little more cut and dry because once you are, let's say you were governor, you are no longer governor, you don't control it, but you might still have friends in the purchasing office, etc. In the Middle East, in a lot of places where you have monarchies, that is not an elected position. So someone might no longer be, let's say, crown prince, but they are still part of the royal family. If you're part of the royal family, you are a powerful person, you retain influence. So with monarchies especially, once a PEP, always a PEP. Again, does not mean you cannot do business with these people. You can and you should do business with politically exposed persons. You just need to do compliance. That is what DFSA and CBUAE are saying. Question from Ishmael. You have automated screening mechanism for customers and ongoing monitoring. With automated screening, that is not part of the free product. That is part of the enterprise product. But the answer is yes. What or how many fuzzy logic are applied? And we'll keep going for 7 more minutes. Just don't want to keep people afterwards, but love all the questions. So Castellum AI actually does a really excellent job of telling you how our fuzzy logic works. So if you go to our resources section and our knowledge base, and we'll send this to everyone afterwards in a follow-up email. If you want to understand how our search works, how does the search work? So, it's a name only, ID only, location only, kind of the different ways to search, but this is our search algorithm. It is not a kind of traditional algorithm. It is a new algorithm. It's patent pending, and it's very, very good for looking at cases where you have complicated examples. So just to show you the examples, if search for something like this, looks like gibberish, I still get a result of 84, even though we removed punctuation and squished the whole name together. If you're doing Form AO agrocredit, I reversed it, I'm still getting a good score. And you can do this in Arabic or any other language as well. So, and again, this is, where should you set the score? You see here, I have a score of 100. At 84, I have similar but not the same name. So we recommend kind of at 85, you have only one true positive. So go back to questions. Magda question, can we share the presentation? The presentation is being recorded, so we will share it afterwards. What kind of resources can we use to identify and confirm the UBO, the ultimate beneficial owner? So Castellum AI is adding ownership information. I want to emphasize that is not free, but we are adding that. So basically, we've gotten from folks, I guess, really feedback on the next 2 webinars, which is adverse media and then ownership. So today we are talking about PEPs, but you can use the Castellum AI platform for ownership. I just want to emphasize that you won't see ownership or adverse media on the free side of the platform.
See another question from Pradeep about our contact information. We'll be sending out follow-up emails. You will be able to contact us through there, but you can also go directly to AML UAE's website or castellum.ai and get in touch with us.
And have another excellent question from Ishmael. Can we select specific country and regulatory list from our database? Yes. So you can see here, so you don't want to select all. Why would anyone in the UAE be screening something from Argentina? You don't need to. And if you were in Qatar, I might say maybe, because you have a lot of Argentinian players, but let's just say you don't need to. So I'm going to select UAE. I'm going to select US, OFAC. I'm going to select HMT. and I'm going to select EU. So question original, how do we select these different lists? So you literally just type them in this drop-down bar. That gives us 155 lists, over 10,000 names. But let's say you wanted to limit the risk and say, I only care who is on those lists in the United Arab Emirates with a location there. So this filter allows you to search. So again, type in the specific sources here, and then you go here, and so you have over 200 sanctioned entities. So this is one thing that is very important in the UAE, kind of for everyone to understand. The UAE does have a significant amount of financial crime risk. Of course, you have PEP risk, which is what we're talking about today, but you have individuals from Russia, Iran, Turkey. PEPs globally come to the UAE. Sanctioned persons come to the UAE. I mean, the UAE is one of the top business centers in the world, so it attracts everyone. And we want to encourage business. We just want to make sure that the laws are being broken and that UAE regulations are being followed. So I think just to UN list is available. Yes, it's another question that just came in to show that you can select here UN sanctions.
Peter, another quick question you can show at the same time, can you scan companies as well as, or is it only individuals from ASAN?
Yeah, so it is, we have types. So you could say, I want to see who is in the United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for the question. And I want to see all entities that are watch listed in the UAE. So there's over 390 watch listed entities in the UAE. So that's companies specifically. If we look at individuals only, here we go, 258 that are watch listed. So that's not PEPs. If we make it PEPs, that would be significantly larger. So,
and you can run that same search, so the same name entry that you put into the search bar you can also enter a company name itself to specifically screen a company that is perhaps your customer or a counterpart.
Yeah. So just to end, because we've taken up double everyone's time. Please, everyone, go to Castellum.ai. Click this button here, search sanctions for free. You can create an account. Use the platform, play around with the platform. When you're ready, go to the pricing page. You can click sign up now, use the code AML UAE, and this will give you full access to the platform. So again, we will be sending out in email all this information afterwards. I want to say we had a really excellent attendance, really grateful to everyone's time. And the top message is just, if you have not started screening, don't worry, just start screening. Like that is the main message from the government of the UAE. It is better to start now than to not do it, because they want you to start now, not next year, not the year after that, now. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you again to AML UAE. Glad to have this partnership and be working with you folks. Hope everyone has a wonderful end of their day in UAE.